We're going to cover the top 4 pulling variations that we like to utilize to improve our Olympic weightlifting performance, and we're going to start right now. What's up, everybody? It's Dane Miller from GarageStrength.com, and if this is your first time to the channel and you want to become a better weightlifter, you want to get stronger, you want to be more explosive, you want to become a better athlete, make sure that you like, you subscribe, and you ring that notification bell so we can help you become a champion. Some of the key aspects behind hitting monstrous lifts in the sport of Olympic weightlifting is making sure that the weight feels light off of the floor. And a lot of coaches love to focus on different movements. They love to focus on the back squat. They love to focus on the front squat. And these exercises are amazing. They're absolutely pivotal to Olympic weightlifting performance. But oftentimes we forget to focus on the pull. We forget to focus on different positions in the pull. And oftentimes lifters will approach a heavy attempt at a big time competition and they might clark the lift. They might sit there and they just deadlift it, right? Because it feels so heavy. And oftentimes that goes back to the fact that there weren't proper pulling variations implemented throughout that training program. And a couple things that I've seen throughout my career as a coach is that I've seen a lot of shorter limbed weightlifters really struggle with various pulls. And so we've tried to troubleshoot what pulls transfer really well to that position off the floor, and also what pulls transfer really well from the knee to the hip. And so it's important to recognize that there's different positions that we've got to focus on, and there's different areas that tend to cause different issues. And so now we're going to go into those 4 key lifts that are going to help you improve your pulling position in Olympic weightlifting. So that first exercise that I like to utilize to improve that pulling strength right off the floor is going to be involving the clean pull. And I've seen tremendous carryover from this movement. We're going to be doing a clean pull, and we're going to raise the bar about 3 to 4 inches off the floor, and then we're going to hold it there for about 2 seconds. We're going to lower the bar back to the floor, reset, and go. And then as we finish the traditional clean pull, I'd like to see a 2 to 4 second eccentric. So again, it's a clean pull position. We're gonna lift off 3 to 4 inches, hold that for 1, 2, lower back, reset, and do a full clean pull. And what this does is it provides a lot more volume on that lift off position. A lot of lifters tend to get pulled onto their toes with really heavy weight. So if we can utilize this for 8 to 12 weeks, now we can start to see the lifter drive more through their heels and engage their glutes, engage their quads a little bit more, and engage their lower back a little bit more in conjunction with their glutes right off of the floor. And that's gonna help keep the bar tighter. Now, here is a key concept. When we're talking about the pulls, we have to educate our lifters on what is the point from the floor to the knee. What's the point and what are we trying to accomplish around the knee? What are we trying to accomplish from the reciprocation point to the hip? So we have to do these movements exactly how we want the technique to be done. So when we're doing that lift off, we want the knees to come back, right? We want to clear those knees back, and that's going to help keep that bar tighter. Then when we lower it, we're gonna get set. We're gonna do this again. We want the knees to clear back, and then we want the knees to reciprocate forward when the bar passes the knee. And then we wanna stay on those heels as we make hip contact, and then finish with that big shrug and some plantar flexion. And then we wanna lower through the slow eccentric. One key factor here with a slow eccentric is that you typically will have lifters, as they lower with a slower eccentric, we'll see lifters actually move the bar how their body wants it to be done. So they'll do it very, very well with a very precise movement. And then we'll see on the 2nd or 3rd rep, the lift off and then the pull is actually executed better, even though they're a little bit more fatigued. And the reason why that happens is because the clean pull with a pause potentiates that nervous system. The slow eccentric educates their body on the proper movement. And now that nervous system starts to remember and is educated on those specific positions, but we've got to teach our lifters what those positions should be. I do these once a week for 6 to 7 sets of 2 to 3 reps. That next key exercise is going to be a deficit snatch pull, and this could be done on a 2 to 4 inch riser depending on how tall our lifters are. Anywhere 2 to 3 inches is absolutely plenty. But one thing here that has to be mentioned is that I typically only like to do this with the snatch pull. I don't like to use that deficit with a clean pull. The clean pull can be so heavy, and because it's in a very, very deep position, it can cause quite a bit of stress on the lower back. I like to utilize that deficit snatch pull with my short legged lifters. If I can improve their pull, they're going to be monsters, because short leg lifters can squat a lot more than longer leg lifters. Longer leg lifters can pull a lot better. Now, what happens? If we put that riser, that deficit, we make it a little bit deeper, it increases the range of motion. Now we're starting to teach short leg lifters how to pull like longer leg lifters. Okay, so that's a really key component here. Now, as they get to the knee, we've got to think, we want the knees to clear back. So we want to push through those heels, push through the midfoot, grab with our entire foot, the knees will clear back. And then once we navigate through no man's land, the knees will come back through, and then we're going to make contact just past the reciprocation point. And then I'd like to lower with a 2 to 3 second eccentric. It's the same concept. We've got to focus on that slower eccentric when we're lowering our pulls. But the key here is that deficit snatch pulls teach the shorter leg lifter how to pull like a longer limbed lifter, and that can transfer to their lifts very well. A lot of shorter limbed lifters want to push forward and keep their knees forward off the floor. But if we can strengthen their hamstrings and we can strengthen their posterior chain, now we can take these quad dominant athletes and really start to enhance their weakness. And when their weakness starts to drive forward and make progress, now they're going to lead to become better pullers. When you can get a short limb lifter to become a better puller, that's when they start to dominate on the platform, and that's when you start to see those big lifts come down. So utilize that deficit snatch pull. I would only use it once a week, but I'd like to utilize it for anywhere from 5 to 8 sets, and typically we'll do 2 to 4 reps. Now, before we get into the last two, I'm going to give you a bonus exercise, okay? This is a serious secret to pulling variations. It's going to sound absurd, but I love to use the single leg squat, the old Bulgarian back squat, but I like to use the single leg squat with the rear leg elevated, touching an AirX pad as a way to improve our pulling, the single leg squat. And the reason being is that it hammers the glutes, it hammers the hamstrings, it hammers the lower back in trying to be stable. If you can do this consistently, now we start to have our athletes pull very, very symmetrically, and that improves their pulling strength off the floor. So I love to use that, and that was just a little bonus, little secret I wanted to throw in here. Single leg squats are a great accessory, a great squat accessory that actually drastically help pulling capability. That next key exercise that I like to utilize to improve our pulling strength is going to be any type of pull where we pause below the knee. And if we can think about it, when you're doing a pull, floor to the knee, I want the knees to clear back. I want to keep that bar tight. If our knees stay forward, the bar goes around the knee here and it gets forward, and then you get pulled onto your toes. And that doesn't help engage our posterior chain. If our knees clear back, we're gonna load the hamstrings and we're gonna load our quads. We're gonna have a nice little co-contraction at that knee joint. And so the reason why I like to pause below the knee is that if I have an athlete who struggles with clearing the knees back off the floor, a beginner lifter or a lifter who's been taught to sort of spread those knees wide, if I have an athlete like that, I'm gonna have them pause below the knee for 3 to 4 seconds, and that's going to ingrain that position, and that's going to strengthen that position, because typically what happens is that a lot of those lifters that push their knees wide, they're just not strong below the knee. Their hamstrings aren't strong there, the lower back's not strong there, and so it's important to pause below the knee. And now you can do this on the concentric, or you can do it on the eccentric. So we might do a snatch pull where we pause below the knee 2 to 3 seconds, and we finish the pull. If we have another lifter that maybe they're struggling with even just feeling that movement pattern, when they're doing the eccentric, when they're lowering, we might have them lower, the knees come forward, and then as we get back below the knee at the beginning of no man's land, they're gonna pause there. And that's the one thing here. Below the knee, to just above the knee, okay? So just above the knee, I call the reciprocation point. That's when the knees start to come forward. Below the knee to the reciprocation point is referred to as no man's land. That is the most disadvantageous position in the pull. I don't even know if that's a word, I think it is, but let's just use it for this video. Below the knee to above the knee, that's where almost every single lift is lost, especially right below the kneecap, okay? So from below to above, that's no man's land. A lot of lifts are lost. If we get comfortable with pausing below the knee on the concentric or on the eccentric, now we strengthen that position, we strengthen the confidence of the lifter, their technique starts to improve and their pull improves, and that's gonna lead to better lifts long term. That number one pulling accessory movement variation that we like to utilize is the snatch pull to a target. And typically what I like to do is think about exactly where the sternum is, okay? Where that sternum is almost always the height that you have to pull the bar to get under it, okay? It doesn't matter how tall the lifter is, it's get it to the sternum, okay? That's almost always where we're gonna see it. So find out where that position is, find out where that sternum position is for each individual athlete. And what I like to utilize is I set up our squat stands and we'll put a PVC pipe directly across it. We'll band it down. And the whole goal is to hit that position, is to hit that PVC pipe, make contact. And if it's banded properly, it's gonna go back down and then we can lower back into that starting position and we can squeeze tight. And the big thing here is we're gonna start to think about pulling position with our upper body. So we haven't mentioned that yet, okay? That's a key concept when we're talking about technique of the pull. Our knees clear back. We get to the bottom of the knee. Now we're entering no man's land. As the bar comes around the knee reciprocates forward. When it gets to that reciprocation point, our heels stay flat, our knees travel forward. We get knee flexion, we hold hip flexion. So our chest is forward, our knees are forward. Now our heels are grounded. When we make contact, watch the best snatchers in the world. No one finishes with a shrug here. We want to finish with our elbows back. We want to shrug almost back, almost like an upright row backwards. I like to do these pretty consistently, especially when we're about 2 programs out from a peak. The snatch pull to a target is going to help that athlete feel heavy load and also give them confidence that they can get under it and they can hit these big PRs. So utilize that snatch pull to a target 2 programs out from a big peak. Focus on the knees clearing back. Make sure the knees travel forward and reciprocate forward after they exit no man's land. Make good hip contact and understand what the upper body should be doing. I don't like to utilize clean pull to a target. I don't like to do that. I like to do that snatch pull to a target. And typically we might do 7 doubles or 7 triples. And almost always that last rep, I'll make my lifters do a 6-second eccentric, okay? And this movement educates the lifter on how to accelerate through the finish and also how to control. And when you control through that full eccentric, you're also going to strengthen the hamstrings, the hips, the lower back tremendously. And that's going to lead to those big PRs in the snatch. So if you want help with your programming and your periodization, we've got parabolic periodization, which shows how we break down our programming, how we break down our periodization, what different exercises we like to utilize. You can head over to garagestrength.com. If you want more information about Olympic weightlifting training, you can click on this card right here. Until next time, guys, peace.